The Intruder's latest update has finally been released, and although it seems like a pretty small one at first glance, it's actually pretty useful in terms of trying to dissect the lore more than ever before. In this video, we will present to you 3 brand new theories that will hopefully help explain the cryptic lore of this chapter, as well as hopefully try and find its placement in the larger timeline of the Intruder. And yes, I said we.
So you know what that means.
Pysocatine will be helping me out once again to help figure out what in the world's going on. So without further ado, please be sure to like and subscribe, and also be sure to comment down below what games you'd want me to cover in the future. And without further ado, let's dive back into the dark lore of Roblox's The Intruder. Theory number 1. The Intruders are actually demons summoned from hell. So this latest chapter of The Intruder is certainly one of the most different in terms of what's going on, at least compared to the rest of the chapters. Gone are any mentions of mental illness, VHS recordings, or missing children. Instead, we have a mysterious cabin in the middle of the woods named after the devil himself. We also learn that a string of families used to live in this home as far back as 1894. However, the original owners moved away right after the Second World War, and the house wasn't inhabited again until 1999, when it came into the possession of a married couple. The two both mysteriously died, with the husband losing his face and the wife getting many cuts and lacerations on her body. After playing the chapter, it becomes clear that cult-like activity took place inside this house in the basement. There are also some secret messages hidden all over the walls of the cabin, which Pyso will translate for you guys later. What's even stranger about this chapter still is that there are 2 intruders found here, and they look nothing like the others that we've seen before. The first one is completely skeletal, with the only things about it letting us even know it's an intruder is the style of the eyes and the dark black bones. The other intruder appears to be a strange black blob, which we hear talking to us and jump scaring us twice. Now, based on the notes and messages found throughout the lodge, as well as some information laid out in my previous theory, which you should totally watch by the way, I think it's safe to assume that these 2 intruders are actually the couple that were found dead here. Specifically, the husband is the blob and the wife is the skeleton. So that's all well and good, but how can we prove that the intruders are demonic or from hell, like I said earlier? Well, if the cult-like activity wasn't a red flag, underneath the ritual candles is a deep, dark hole. A hole that could possibly lead to hell itself. After all, hell is described as an underworld, and what's more under the world than a hole going into the ground? But the biggest clue of all is looking at who this cult seemingly sacrificed. One of the notes found here reads, "An act of betrayal she has committed. Her life is payment." It sounds like the wife of this family was involved with this cult somehow, and the other members cut her up and performed a ritual on her. The result? The skeletal intruder that haunts the halls of Satan's Lodge. The name's now more fitting, isn't it? Finally, in the Mandela catalog, which The Intruder is heavily based on, the series has lots of religious and demonic imagery regarding its main antagonist, Gabriel, and his minions, the Alternates, which are both demonic and satanic in nature, and who the intruders are heavily inspired by.
Hello and welcome back, everybody. So, the new chapter, the last chapter of The Intruder has come out just a few days ago. And there's a whole lot more to uncover. You've already heard Noel yap his mouth off about what's going on, but what about my take on it? What do I think the timeline has to offer? I'll explain that in a little bit. First, we're going back to the basics, as always. Now trust me, I won't bore you to death by going over the entire timeline all over again. I'll just sum it up in these few short sentences. James is schizophrenic, a child is lost in a cave, and the intruders are bloodthirsty for mortals in any way possible. I mean, seriously, they'll do whatever it takes, humans and animals. But what does this mean for the new chapter? You've heard the basic overview. We are a YouTuber known as and like the dumb motherfuckers we are, we're exploring an abandoned cab in the middle of the woods. Something that's quite off topic, but that I was concerned about was, does this take place in Germany? It does mention the couple being German, and the cabin being built somewhere in German region. Does that mean that the intruders are worldwide? Or does this entire plot take place in Germany, just translated to English for players? Wait, did I say off topic? No, it's pretty on topic. Let me tell you why. This taking place in Germany infers two things. Either one, this took place in Germany, which makes sense. A lot of weird stuff happens in Germany. Or, the intruders are so dangerous and so fast that they've spread to different countries. Unfortunately, we are unaware if this will ever be explored, as this was announced as the last chapter of the Intruder. So what can we infer from it? I'll tell you what. A whole lot of new theories, and I mean a ton. When the mic was handed to Noel, he obviously talked and yapped about the rot a lot, which is fair enough. The rot seems to be something entirely different from what we're used to. Instead of the usual intruder, which copies, mimics, or otherwise just intrudes, pun intended, but the rot is something almost more sinister. It's seemingly unstoppable, killing at the touch. And another thing, the quote-unquote intruder in this level looked pretty different. Not only was it the rot, but also it took form of a skeleton-like figure. Not only a skeleton, but one that was seemingly struggling to survive on its own. And seeing as the cabin was inside of the woods, and there was that little drop down at the end that led to the caverns, does that mean that the cave was connected to this cabin the entire time? Is this, instead of being a sequel, a prologue? Now don't think I'm not on your plane of existence. I saw everything you guys commented on the last Intruder video. The theories we got wrong, what we got right, and your feedback on it. It was all very interesting, and I really appreciated seeing it. One in specific that I want to talk about is this comment right here. Now excuse me, Mr. Zozam Pack 3165. Alright, but anyway. Sorry, but I'm gonna have to cut your comment a little bit short. What really caught my eye was the first part. Specifically this. Parasite. When I saw this, I nearly jumped out of my chair and straight to my computer to type this out. I'm here to say, and shocker, you might be completely right. What if the rot is a parasite? What if the rot is something that takes over people and turns them into intruders? Now, of course, this almost completely diminishes the prior theory that intruders make people intruders. And it also brings up the fault that if it is the rot's fault, then why do intruders turn into people? Why do they shapeshift if they could just give the rot into people? Well, let me give you this. So, if you saw a big, disgusting, slimy, unknown substance in your front yard, would you approach it, or would you back away and call the nearest animal control center to take it out? Obviously the second option. People are not going to go towards it. And even though the rot is super fast, as it is shown, it's not exactly in the proximity of people. But the rot also ties in another thing with the intruders. Their appearance. Of course, when they're not pretending to be someone else or something else, they appear as a black, slender figure with a weird face on them. And what color is the rot? Well, similar. Another thing, in all the chapters, it seems that the intruders have a weird, dark cloud around them. So either they smell really bad, or this is just something that correlates to the rot. The rot has an aura radiating off of it, and just like the intruder, it's a dark, dusty black cloud. It's also shown that this rot dwells inside of dark and damp places, like, let's say, a cave, but also the basement of the house where we first saw it. So to make it all make sense, I'll give you this. The rot, in my opinion, is something that dwells inside of dark and damp places, cave, basement, whatever you want to call it. And once it infects somebody, it turns them into an intruder. This phase I'd like to call the parasitic phase. Just like our friend Unknown Name back there. Sorry, pal. I'd like to mention something. Notice how the one intruder in this chapter looked different? It wasn't a slender, tall, inky figure, but instead a skeleton, aka the rot. This is where shit gets morbid. One of the final stages of decomposition when somebody or something dies is rotting. Your body literally falls apart off of your skeletal system. And what's this intruder? A skeleton. What if the rot, instead of being a actual name for what this dark entity is instead just a phase? What if when it takes over people, it strips them down till they're nothing, turns them into a husk with only their minds? What if we only saw the beginning phases of an intruder? And then once it has stripped away all your skin, muscles, tissue, your sanity, it coats you in this dark, inescapable mass, and you become one of them. This not only branches off into new theories, but also kind of gives us a sad turn. Contradicting what the comment said earlier, this would mean that this process is not reversible. I mean, I don't think you can gather black flesh and stick it back on a skeleton. That just won't work. Okay. So with this theory, I'm hopping on the full bandwagon of it. I think that being an intruder is a permanent ill. Something you can't quite cure. Which is sad, of course, but it also explains so much. However, this doesn't answer some questions. First of all, the female intruder. If this is a prequel, which contradicts my theory from earlier, then why is there the mask on the floor from the female intruder we saw? Who is the female intruder? I feel like this chapter gave us more questions. What happened to her? Where did she go? But it seems my signal's weakening. Really, your planet's gotta get its satellites in order. Yet, I hope this sticks with you for a while. And until next time, bye, Voyagers!